it didn't work out the way I had hoped at the time. But going back and looking at all of the marketing that we've done throughout the years, I believe contributed to our success. And I think that's the biggest thing that I would tell new business owners is you really have to believe, like I'm a big believer of just, the big number 7 impressions, right? Like after this, they say like after the 7th impression, when someone's exposed to your brand on average 7 times, they're more likely to do business with you. Maybe those register receipts like contributed to one of those 7.
Leo here, your host of the Building Bellingham podcast, and thanks for stopping by the studio. Pour a glass of whiskey or local beer, take a sip, kick those feet up. We're going to dive into what it means to be a business owner, what it means to be a member of this Bellingham and Whatcom County community, and what it means to find peace and balance while running a badass, high-octane, local, iconic business. Let's jump in. Chay, welcome to the Building Bellingham studio.
Thanks for having me.
So we were just talking about how you've been getting the whip cracked on you to get more in front of the camera and to tell your story, because everyone wants to know, because your businesses are staples here in Bellingham and Whatcom County. Tell me a little bit more about you and your brother and your business part. Where'd you come from? How'd you start this whole journey?
So journey started in 2004. I was a college student at the time, I think. How old was I? I think I was 21 or 22, something like that. And
no gray hairs.
Yeah, definitely no gray hairs yet at the time. The priority at the time was to figure out what I was going to do with my life, because I met my wife, my beautiful wife, Christina. She's from Whatcom County, met in college years, and she had no desire to leave Whatcom County. Mm-hmm. I was slinging TVs and computers at Best Buy.
Nice.
Was
going pretty well?
Yeah.
Were you selling mostly Samsungs or LGs off the shelf too?
I sold anything they put in front of me. I was just a salesman. Yeah, no, Best Buy was great. I learned a lot of, customer service skills, learned how to become a salesman. I was bleeding blue for 4 years. Yeah. But no, yeah, it was a great job. I met a lot of good people and friends that I still have now. But I really wanted to get out of the corporate world. Mm-hmm. I knew it wasn't, for me. Lee and I grew up in the restaurant business. Our parents owned a couple restaurants, so we knew what it took to run a restaurant. We knew that a restaurant could be a good living. But they owned Asian restaurants, and we also learned that we never wanted to own an Asian restaurant.
Why
ever. Is that? It's tough work.
It's brutal.
Yeah. Like as hard as we've ever worked, we have never worked as hard as my parents worked.
Tough boss.
Bosses, yeah. With the restaurant background, and Lee and I actually in high school and early college years, we actually worked in pizza parlors as well. So we knew the pizza sector of the restaurant business as well. So, I was working at Best Buy and had this kind of habit of just checking business opportunities in the classified ads. I don't know how old are you?
30, almost 32.
Yeah. So I've got 9 years on you.
Yeah.
So,
but I know the world. I know that part of the world.
But back then it wasn't like Craigslist wasn't even a thing yet, right?
Yeah.
So you had to go to the classified ads in the Bellingham Herald and pull out the classified section to look for any listings, right? So I would always go under business opportunities and just be like, what business is for sale? Like I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to own my own business. That's what I wanted to do.
Were there lots every day, or what was the market like?
No, I wouldn't say a lot, but I mean, you'd get 3 or 4 a week on there that were like new listings, right? So it's like, I don't know, if you're into something, you're always like looking, you're kind of excited to like, I wonder if anything's on there, right? And one day saw an ad. It said family-owned restaurant for sale. No other info. It just said family-owned restaurant for sale. Written inquiries only.
You're like, please please no Asian restaurant.
Yeah, no Asian restaurant. And there was just an address that you can like mail an inquiry to. That was a strange, nothing about the restaurant on there, right? Yeah. So it's like, what the heck? Spent the next 20 minutes typing up a quick letter, put in an envelope, stamped it, and sent it off.
Was it a formal letter of author or of like intent, or was it just
no? It was just like, hey, just saw.
Hello, I'm interested.
I saw your ad, and God, I wish I had a copy of the letter. I don't, But like 2 weeks later, I get a call, and it was Ken Krumdiak. He's the owner of Coconut Kenny's. He's like, hey, I got your letter in the mail. You want to meet? Let's do it. And I should preface that story with the fact that Christina, my wife, we were dating at the time, her and I ate at Coconut Kenny's coincidentally for the first time, like a month prior to me sending that letter. So if
stars are starting to align a little
yeah,
bit.
so if you believe in stuff like that, that it is kind of a weird coincidence, because when I was in there for the first time, I was like, this place is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like there's some things that I would change about it, but it was, I love the motif, the decor and the vibe and everything. Like, it was a little slower vibe. They always had Hawaiian music playing.
Yep.
And Hawaiian music, I don't know if you guys agree with me, but Hawaiian music is like cool for like half an hour, and then you're like, I'm over it. Like I gotta get,
so chill. It's great, and then you're like, different genre.
Yeah, let's change it up. So so I thought it was a really cool place, but I also I actually remember specifically saying to Christina, I'm like, man, I wish I could talk to the owner of this place, and like, I wonder if they'd let me like run it for a while for them, so I can make some changes, because I could make this place really cool.
You saw pretty quickly the opportunity.
So when he called me and was like, I own Coconut Kenny's, you want to meet? And I was just like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Went and met with him, and super neat fellow, and his wife. I mean, I'm still friends with Kenny and Penny.
Yeah.
My family and I visited him last December in Florida. They're retired and they live in Florida now. Really good people. So anyways, met him, agreed on a price. Like, yeah, I'm gonna buy it. So
but do you have any sort of like background in purchasing businesses?
No.
Did you have any idea how to do it? Or was it just like ink it up? Let's make this happen.
No. So that's the second part of the story of acquiring this business. Is like, the second part is like, okay, we agreed, and I was like, okay, I got to go get a loan.
Yeah.
So like you just asked, like, I never bought a business before. I went to 3 different banks. I was hoping to only go to one bank. Yeah. Ended up being 3 different banks. And they all shut me down. They were like, no way, kid. Like, you have no experience. Restaurant business is like highest failure rate in small businesses. No collateral. Like, no.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, too, the price of that, we paid, the agreed upon price was $49,000. Like, we weren't talking, like, I mean, it's more, $49,000 back then is more than it is now, but it still wasn't like, we weren't talking big amount of money, you know?
Right.
So I was like, man, how can I not get approved for $49,000? This is crazy. It was super frustrating. Yeah. I bet you I could have got a car loan at the time for that amount of money. Right. Like, but I guess there's collateral in a car loan. So, after like 2 weeks of getting the door slammed in my face, I went back to Ken. I was like, I can't get a loan, and oh, sorry, kid.
Yeah.
It's just like,
that's what you need.
Yeah. He didn't know me that well. He knew I wanted it, but he wasn't going to give it to me. Right. So yeah, we kind of parted ways, and I got over it, and it's like, okay, on to the next thing. Got to find something. Right. So, like 2 weeks later, he called me back and he's like, Chay, you still want to buy this place? Yeah. Like, out of everyone we've talked to, you're the only one who has appreciated what we've done with it, and see potential in it. We know that it's not perfect business yet, but we appreciate that you want to continue on like what we've built, and we're going to retire. And if you still want it, we'll finance you. I was like, whoa, cool. So a month later, we signed paperwork. He gave me a month of training and handed me the keys. And yeah, it's been a long 18-year journey since.
And how did your brother get involved in it?
So my brother was living in Longview at the time, and he was actually managing a pizza parlor with some friends. Called him up, and I was like, hey, you got this opportunity. You want to come up and see what we can do with this place? And he moved up and joined forces, and a lot of bumps along the way, a lot of learning, opportunities and trial and error and mistakes, and a lot of good decisions too, of course. And
clearly,
you're
opening up your 7th location. A lot of good decisions.
So
there's being a business owner, you get all the risk, but you also get all the reward, right? And we're in a society where people bet on other people a lot, but you were in this state where you were willing to bet on yourself and your brother to take on an owner contract. The owner was willing to bet, Kenny was willing to make a bet on you too. What was that like, having basically zero experience, going into it and saying, okay, I'm going to bet on myself that this is going to work. I see the opportunities, and did you just not look back? Did you just say, we're going to make this work? This is what it is.
The early years of Coconut Kenny's were really tough. I mean, all small businesses are tough. Small restaurant business, I think, speaking from experience, is extremely tough. And anyone who's done it, and it doesn't have to be a small business, any small business, if you start it from the ground up, I think you just have a different appreciation for how tough being a business owner is, like we were talking about earlier. So yeah, they were very trying years, to say the least. Sometimes people don't believe me, but I owned Coconut Kenny's for 5 years before I took a paycheck home. And that was 60, 70-hour work weeks. Leaving my wife and my daughter in the morning and not seeing them till, nighttime, and doing that every day until when you're doing it and it's tough and, you're like, man, you have days where you're just like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Like,
why am I doing this?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a smart guy. I got a college degree. I can probably interview and get a pretty good job somewhere, and, I'm not gonna lie. There's days where I question it and, but you also true to what you believe. And I was, we were, it's like, no, this is going to work out. This is going to pan out one day. It's just going to take time. You got to build up your customer base. You got to keep making pizzas and taking care of your customers until the word gets out that you're here to stay and you're worthy of their business.
Yeah.
And that's what it took. I think after 4 years, we opened our Cedar Woolley location.
Mm-hmm. How did you identify other locations? I mean, you really only knew the Bellingham location demographic. How did you start identifying other? Well,
Bellingham, I just told you that story. Cedar Woolley wasn't like we went and like, oh, out of all the towns we could open in,
it's got to be Cedro.
It's got to be Cedro. Like, no, it wasn't the case. It was more an opportunity. Another pizza restaurant was going out of business. It was affordable for us.
But this time you're getting notifications probably on your phone, not necessarily in the.
Now it was MLS.
Yeah.
Because I was slinging real estate at the time.
No way.
That was how I got through my first 4 years of owning Coconut Kenny's, because I wasn't making any money at Coconut Kenny's. I was, doing that. And then any spare time I had, I was selling real estate. Like after 6 months of owning Coconut Kenny's, I was like, whoa, this isn't really working out. Had a house and I needed to make my mortgage payments, Carl Dufton, he, Carl?
I know Carl, not well, but I know him.
Yeah. So before I became a real estate agent, before I bought Coconut Kenny's, I sold him some TVs at Best Buy. So he was like, hey, have you ever thought about selling real estate? No, I can't say, I was interested in real estate, but I didn't think about selling it. My parents are pretty heavily invested in real estate, so it's always been intriguing to me. He was like, you'd be good at selling houses. You should get a if you ever want to get out of this and think about selling real estate, look me up. With Coconut Kenny's, when, those first six months, actually it was like 2 months into it, I realized like I'm in trouble, right? I just left a good salary. I mean, for me, it was a great salary at the time. I was 21, as I had worked my way up to a sales manager position at Best Buy, not Coconut Kenny's. Funny story with that is for 3 months, I actually worked full time at Best Buy and was running the restaurant.
And got your license.
Yeah. So I would be at Best Buy and answer at Coconut Kenny's, and then I'd be at Coconut Kenny's and answer at Best Buy. Like I was like, So I was like, okay, I got to quit. I got to quit Best Buy. But then it was like, how am I going to make a living? So I remembered my conversation with Carl. I called him up and I was like, hey, can I still get a license? And he's like, yeah. I don't know who's ever gotten a real estate license the fastest, but I've got to come close, because I literally, like from the day I spoke to him to me hanging my license on his wall was like right under 60 days. Yeah. Like I was selling real estate like within 60 days of talking to him. That was 2004 going into 2005. And if that market was super hot then, like
right before a tough time.
Like, anyone could sell real estate at that time. Like obviously we learned the lesson from this, but like lenders were lending money to like anyone could buy a house at that time, right?
Any house.
Yeah. So, I was in my early 20s. I knew a lot of people my age, and my sphere of influence was pretty good. So it's like I knew people who wanted to buy homes. So we started selling houses,
and still working full time at Coconut Kenny's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's how for 4 years I sold real estate and did it really well. And it paid my bills. That's how I got through those, 4 years.
How many hours do you think you were working between the two careers?
I don't know. I bet my wife could tell you.
Yeah.
It's all a blur.
She's like, the only thing is I just didn't see him.
Yeah. Yeah. The real estate crash in, 07, 08 was a blessing for me, because I went from like selling a bunch of real estate to, okay, this is kind of tough now, right? Yeah. What do I do? And I that was when I really decided, like, okay, I've got to choose one. Focus on just one. So ended up being Coconut Kenny's and got our next location.
So location 2 was
Cedar Woolley.
Cedro.
Yeah.
And then what was 3?
Ferndale. Yeah.
And then 4 was Atlanta.
Yeah. No, 4 was Burlington.
Okay.
I think it was year 8 that we opened up our Ferndale one. And then after the Ferndale one, it was like every 2 years we were opening.
Was that part of the plan? Was just like you have a formula now that can make sense?
Well, we had a formula until COVID came along, because, we opened up Anacortes, which was our 6th location. And if everything would have gone as planned, we probably would have did, another location 2 or 3 years later. But because of COVID, that got stretched out. And, you know, it was 5 years. We were 5 years removed from an opening between Anacortes and Marysville. So yeah, you know, as we learned and as we scaled, we added locations, and adding locations means you can add manpower, you have more funding to market more effectively. Everything gets a little bit easier as, you know, you increase cash flows, right?
Bigger but simpler.
Yeah, you have more people, you can afford more labor to do things that you needed more skilled people to do, but you didn't necessarily have to do yourself. So you could spend time, you know, we started being able to work on our business rather than in the business, you know, like people talk about that all the time, and it's very, very true.
Yeah.
Like business owners need that time to work on the high level projects, and we get to do that all the time now. You know,
and many small business owners, I think that's the biggest struggle when you have like one location and that's your only source.
Yeah.
You have to, you're like, well, this person can't work, or labor's too expensive. I have to.
Yeah. You're in there for 60 hours a week. And then when you get home, you're like, man, I got to put in another 10 hours to like think about these high level tasks. Otherwise I'm just existing and I'm not planning and growing. And so, yeah, obviously getting to the point where we could do that was very good for our business. We're very thankful for that.
So speaking of working on the business, you'd mentioned something like when you'd walked into Coconut Kenny's before you bought it, about kind of like looking around with your restaurant background and going, okay, here's something I can jump on. Here's something that can improve the music, not listening to Hawaiian music all day. You know, you feel sleepy, you want to have a beer on the beach, whatever it is, but it's maybe you want to mix it up a little bit. What were some of those like first ideas that you had when you sat down in the restaurant? Was it like, oh, this food item, I want to change this or this? Or was it,
you know, nothing? It was nothing to do with the food. It wasn't the food. I think everything but one menu item that was on the menu. No, I take that back too. They had a salmon dish, a rice and salmon dish that we didn't want to do. And they had a pasta. They had pasta. We canceled pasta. We're like, we want to keep the menu simple, but really good. You know, and that's always been the case. You know, like we offer, I think, Lee would be so disappointed in me for not knowing how many different sandwiches we offer. But, you know, it's like 12 or 13 sandwiches and like 18 different signature pizzas. Big selection, but very simple menu. But every single one is very flavorful, and it's really good. And we, you know, from day one, that's what we wanted, because a scalable concept has to be very simple. That's why you never want to own an Asian restaurant, right? Because you look at a Chinese restaurant menu, and you're just like, what in the world is going on here? You know, like,
there's a lot going on. Lots of good stuff.
Yeah.
But
my
complicated.
parents' restaurants, like, it was always fun because every time a cook quit, like the menu changed, because no Asian or Chinese cook, like every restaurant sweet and sour is different, right? Have you known, like, right? So like, if in an Asian restaurant, the cook quit, I mean, you're still calling it the same, but it didn't taste the same, right?
You got the customer that's like, this is different. So we wanted something that, you know, no matter who was making it, it was gonna be the same. It was more the vibe. Like, I really liked the decor in there. But it was, Is that the same that it's been?
And it's consistent. Yeah. If you go to our website and look at all the interior photos at all the restaurants, like it's the same. Like I think it keeps getting better. You know, we modernize it, but it's still very much like this tropical theme. Like, we want our customers, if they're having a half-hour lunch with us or a 2-hour dinner with their family, like, we want them to feel like they just walked into their favorite tiki hut and they're at their favorite island getaway, and feel like they're there for half an hour to an hour. You know,
and people need that in the Northwest.
Yeah. You know, we're really fortunate in the fact that, like, not very many, no one at all in Whatcom County has like copied our theme, right? Like, why you need more tropical, you know, island vibe, right? Like, why wouldn't you want to feel that way?
Maybe some happy lights in there too, you know, some vitamin D producing lights. We just need it.
Our contractor, he's built 6 of our locations for us. Bruce Burke, wonderful guy. He just does such a great job with our new restaurants. And like, our goal is feel like, you know, like when you go to like a theme park, like Disneyland, right? Like, you go and do like a ride, and you very much are like in that moment of like, whoa, this feels like you just walked into a different room. And that's what we want, you know, when you go and do a new Coconut Kenny's, to feel like that, right? But yeah, it was just really the opportunities was just like pepping it up, like making it like a little more lively, if you will.
What genre of music? What was your first change from Hawaiian music?
I think it was just whatever was popular, like just pop, right? Like
Yeah,
just not Hawaiian, It was very much tailored. Like college students rarely went to Coconut Canyon. It wasn't like your hot spot necessarily. It was more catered towards an older crowd, and we love our old crowd. We started to market it more towards a younger demographic, if you will.
How'd you do that? What's the difference in the way that you marketed it?
Well, back then it wasn't social media. Blue Book, great big.
I remember
Blue Book, right? Running ads in there, hiring college students. That helps to get the word out. But it was a very slow process. When you're young and underfunded. Like I remember making marketing decisions and how difficult it was to spend money on marketing, not because I didn't want to, but because we didn't have the money to, right? Like
every decision mattered.
Yeah. I remember specifically in Cedar Woolley, the food pavilion, it was a third party that handled those efforts for them. But like, they still do it today, but you can like put your coupons on the back of the register receipts.
Yeah.
And I remember cutting a check for $600 for that to try it. And my return was horrible, horrible. And I was like, dang it, I could use that $600 right now, for small businesses, telling yourself, I've got to take away some of this income that I could really use to make part of my mortgage payment or car payment or, whatever you could use it on. And I've got to like try this marketing, it's tough, right?
Yeah.
Thankfully, our marketing budget is substantially better than it is.
Well, you earned it.
Yeah, than it was back then. But yeah, it was a slow process. It took a good 5 to 6 years before it finally clicked, where it's like, oh, this is why we stuck with it. This is why, we kept doing what we did and kept believing and treating every customer like they were our first customer and doing what we did. And now we're blessed with great customers, good, loyal customers. Like you said, like I feel like we're a brand that is pretty well known in Whatcom County. We operate in Bellingham, Ferndale, and Linden. All three are super, super great communities. Mm-hmm. Man, we got so many supportive families, and customers that come out and show us how thankful they are for us being a business in those towns. So
something interesting that you were saying was that early on, you feel like in order to make one move, you have to like pull on every part of your life, right? Like that $600 budget to do the back of the receipt, your best marketing decision yet, right? Mm-hmm. That was the one that gave you the biggest gray hair. But I think now you're able to make marketing decisions not only based on experience, but you have resources. Now, for people that listen to this podcast and are in either one of those positions, what kind of advice do you give people for? You have to start out as the person that pulls on everything to make it happen and take the risk. But then as you've grown, what kind of decisions have gotten easier for you?
So, that register advertising decision, it didn't work out the way I had hoped at the time. But going back and looking at all of the marketing that we've done throughout the years, I believe contributed to our success. And I think that's the biggest thing that I would tell new business owners is you really have to believe. Like I'm a big believer of just, the big number 7 impressions, right? Like after this, they say like after the 7th impression, when someone's exposed to your brand on average 7 times, they're more likely to do business with you. Maybe those register receipts like contributed to one of those 7, right? So now, when I think back, it's like I did a lot of things that I thought didn't work, but they all probably worked together, and I just wasn't able to realize the byproduct of that at the time. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. Yeah.
So now, like when we're making marketing decisions, now it's more like what's considered effective versus not effective to us is not like did they bring that coupon in and did they redeem it? We still track those things, of course, but it's more like how many impressions did I get? We got 2 billboards on Meridian. How many daily impressions do those billboards get me? If I run a Facebook ad, what's each impression cost me? How many impressions do we get for free? because, Facebook's algorithms like what we just put out, so it's like constant, like, what are we doing that's going to maximize the number of impressions so that we can get to that, 7th impression, or so we can stay top of mind to our customers and keep them coming back.
And I'm sure putting all of the hashtags of chicken, bacon, chipotle, cilantro, onions, Hawaiian
hashtag
bread.
Everything. Yeah.
Like, why are we getting so many free impressions? This is crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, we put bacon in there.
Yeah. I can't even keep up with, I'm glad that I have our marketing team that we do, because I can't keep up with the ever changing. It just changes all the time. It's like you think you got it figured out, and then
something changes.
Changes,
Tiffany, our producer right here, she and Coop, they both know a lot about that, and Taylor all know a lot about that. But what was the tipping point for you where you decided to hire somebody to do all your marketing? You were doing everything. You're the receipt that you're trying all of these things. These 7, right?
Yeah. So my brother
in the
business,
point for you?
In the business, my brother, I love him to death for it, because he handles all the operations, like back of house, especially menu items, policies and procedures, and how to execute a kitchen very well. Like he heads that, and he does a very good job of that. And I kind of handle front of house and marketing. But it wasn't until about 16 or 18 months ago that I made a decision. Like, I'm way too busy now to try to like make all of the marketing decisions. I needed a team that could produce assets and understood our brand and our vision and how I think, and they can put things out without having to run it by me, and it took a few months to get there, but this marketing company, Joico, is amazing at it. They know our brand, they know what we stand for and our values, and they do a great job of portraying that in the marketing channels that we use.
One of the things that I've noticed about your business outside of great food and the expansion and like the awareness is you have a huge presence in the community and how you show up for the community. And that's super important. That's how we operate too. Is that one of your core values? Like, how did you get so excited about, I mean, I know you live here and your family's here, but your business is, how did you get so excited about Whatcom County? How do you?
Yeah, we love Whatcom County. I mean, anytime you go on vacation somewhere, you live in a good place if you can't wait to come back home. Yeah. I can't wait to come back to Whatcom County and Bellingham and come back home, because we live in a great place. We're spoiled. So, with community, I mean, it's a pretty simple answer. I mean, we love the people who love us, and support us, and giving back to the community and the different ways that we do it it's a very easy decision. Our bread and butter in terms of customers is our families, big households that come out and support us and appreciate us. Like, when we're making decisions on, as a business owner, you guys get, you're getting requests for contributions and donations all the time, right? And at the end of the day, you wish you could help out all of them, but you can't, so you do have to kind of choose. And we've always kind of tailored our decisions towards anything that's just family and kid oriented.
It's our future.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Kind of wild thing.
Yeah. So we love supporting all the schools and all the sports programs out there and stuff. And we know it's all going to come back anyways. Our customers are super great. I can't say it enough. And they've supported us for 18 years. So it's just an easy decision for us.
You love them. They love you.
Yeah.
So let's take a step back towards, okay, we talked a little bit. You buy the business, you have the first location, you open Cedar Woolley, and then there was Ferndale, correct? That was the third one.
Mm-hmm.
Let's equate this to like
what's the method to the madness?
Well, yeah, like what was the easiest expansion? Was the first one the hardest? The second one the hardest? Was it like having 2 or 3 kids? Was it like 3 is like, oh my God, what did I do? 4 is like, oh, this is not too bad. 5, I'm like, okay, cool.
Well, it's funny you mentioned kids, because I joke about it, but opening restaurants, there's actually similarities to having kids, right? Because like when you have a kid, you're like, I can't wait to have a kid. And then you have a kid, and for like the first, granted, I love my kids, and I loved every stage, but like for the first 2 years, you're like, oh my gosh, this is tough.
Yeah.
It takes a lot. Yeah, it takes a lot. It's a lot of work, right? So you're like, especially like the first 6 months, you're like, I'm never doing this again. Why would I, And then you're like, oh, after they turn 2, I mean, people always say terrible 2s. I don't know. For me, it wasn't, terrible 2s weren't that bad with our kids. It was more like not getting a full night's sleep and, having to wake up early for work and being tired or, whatever. But after like the first 2 years, you kind of forget, actually 18 months, right? Like you kind of forget how hard it was to have a newborn. Let's do it again.
Yeah.
So parents do it again,
Yeah.
right? So with the restaurant, it's funny. It's kind of the same thing. Like you're like, yeah, let's open another restaurant, and you open it, and you're like, oh my gosh, why do we do this?
Yeah.
Now we gotta do this all over again, and train and get established in the community, and like all that, right? And it's just a lot of work, right? And then after a couple years of being in business, you're like, oh, it's not that bad. Do it again.
Yeah.
So it's very similar to having kids.
Yeah.
People are probably gonna listen to this and go, I can't believe you equated opening a business to having kids. But from a stress level, it's kind of
probably pretty similar.
Yeah. From a work and stress level. So, so that was kind of our thing. Like after Ferndale, we were on like every couple years, we were opening another restaurant. But like I said, until we got to Anacortes, and then COVID hit, it kind of, we all know what happened during that time. But now we're back at, like we're opening Marysville.
Yep.
We're looking for real estate, Everett, Bothell, Woodinville, maybe Lake Stevens market, because of where we're pulling customers from in Marysville. We're able to kind of figure out maybe some potential markets. Yeah, we're hoping to open another location next year. I mean, that's what we're doing. We're going back to the 2-year mark where we've got a great, we haven't even talked about employees, but any good customer or customer that we would consider regulars know how good our employees are. It's my company, so I'm biased, but Lee and I strongly believe that in the restaurant business, we have the best employees in the business. I honestly believe that. And that's why we are able to do what we do. And we have some guys that are with us on our corporate team that have been with us for a long time. The Marysville location, we co-own with one of our corporate team members. The next one, we're going to have market shares available to other team members. And that's our growth plan. Like we are going to continue to develop young managers into business owners. And
so like a franchise setup, or is it just partial ownership?
Yeah, partial ownership. Yeah.
How far south are you going? What's the vision?
As silly as it sounds, I don't have like an end vision for Coconut Candies yet. Like we're going to keep doing it as long as we have the energy and the drive to do it, and the people that, want to do it with us. But while there's no like end goal to it, there are very big goals to it. Like we are prepped to franchise. We've got investment groups as far down as the Tri-Cities that want to open up locations. We actually have a meeting with a potential person that wants to open one up in Arizona, so we're kind of open to anything. We might work with investment groups that help us scale and launch maybe even at a quicker rate than we are now. Coconut Candies is just out of place right now, that I think we're very much primed for a very big move rather than just, one every couple years.
Yeah.
So that could very easily happen as well. I guess anything and everything is possible with our company right now. It's a good place to be.
It's a good feeling, huh?
Yeah.
Good,
really
good kind of like level mindset to be in. And okay, let's go to the fact that you own a business with your brother, and you guys grew up together, obviously, and you guys are similar in some ways and different in other ways, and you've clearly set your roles in the company. You're like, dude, you're going over here, you're doing operations, you're doing the kitchen, I'm doing front of house. Was that really quick? Did you guys just go?
No.
How did you guys figure that out?
Just through years of working together. Having a business partner, as you guys know, and anyone who has a business partner, it's tough, right? Like we get along extremely. We're like married. He's like my second partner in life, right? Yeah. Besides my wife. There isn't anything now where we don't already know what the other person's thinking, which is a great place to be. But it wasn't always like that. It took a while to like figure out what our strengths and our weaknesses are, and what buttons to push and which ones not to. And it took a while, but yeah, we got there, and it's great. I couldn't ask for a better business partner now. So yeah. And our vision and our desires for the company is very much aligned. I think if you talk to any of our business partners or anyone who's worked with Lee and I, they would tell you that we're just very stand up, like good business people. Like that's something that we take a lot of pride in, and obviously I'm complimenting myself, but I truly believe that anyone you
proud
talk
of, though.
to is anyone you talk to would be like, those guys are good dudes. You want to do business with those guys,
Yeah.
you know, and that's something that we make sure to try to seep into the rest of our company, into the managers that we're developing. It's just, you know, make sure that whatever you're doing, you stand for and you want to be proud of it.
Stick to it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what we've done. And I think that's a big reason why we're as successful as we are and why people want to work with us.
Mm-hmm.
So
years down the road, we're talking 2018, you had an employee, a really, really great employee that said, "Hey, I'm going to do something different."
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, "Well, but you're awesome. And I want to stay in business with you." And how did Downtime Taps come to being? You told me a little bit about it pre-interview here, but
yeah. So Tomas, he's my partner at Downtime Taps. He worked for us for, gosh, I want to say 8 or 9 years. He was managing our Anacortes location at the time, but you know, one day I was having a conversation with him, and he's like, "Hey, Chay, I think I'm going to be leaving soon." I'm like, "Oh, you know, why? What are we doing?" You know, and he showed me this concept of a self-serve tap room that he had seen while traveling. He's like, "I think it's really cool. Washington State doesn't have it. I want to do one."
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he's like, "I need a partner if you're interested." You know, and that obviously smaller conversations led to bigger conversations, and it was just like, "Yeah, let's do this." The building owners of our Ferndale location, this shopping center that we're in now, they're no longer the owners, but really good people that I got along with well. They just so happened to have some space available next door to Coconut Kenny's there in Ferndale, and signed a lease, and we're like, "Yeah, we're going to build this thing." It wasn't as easy as that. Self-serve tap rooms didn't exist in Washington State prior to us.
Why was that? Because I saw the concept in California.
Very new concept.
Yeah.
So when we applied for that liquor license and told them what we were doing, like, "No, you're not doing that. You're crazy. Put a wall up with a bunch of beer and people can just serve themselves. That sounds like a problem, chaos, right?" Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
no,
but
there's like boundaries to it.
Yeah,
Okay.
The technology. It's actually, in my opinion, it's actually kind of safer than people are limited on their pours.
Mm-hmm.
The caps them out at a regulated amount, and you know, you check on them and you can re-up their limits if they're fine to consume more. But you know, our typical customer is not there to get drunk. You know, we look at it as a more of an experience, a tasting experience. Yeah, it's a really fun business. Took us a while to get licensed for it, but we ended up pulling it off, and it's very similar to the early days of Coconut Kenny's. It's an early business that we're still working on building. We have growth plans for it as well. Tomas really wants
4 years in.
Mm-hmm.
3-4 years in.
Yeah, Tomas wants to open another location down south somewhere. So that's been in the conversation. So we'll see where that goes.
Yeah.
So
was there after you guys made that splash and created this business, the first in Washington State, were there others that followed suit?
Yeah, I don't know how many exactly there are now, but since that self-pour regulation is in place, obviously anybody can use it now. So I know there are other locations throughout. I think one in Seattle just opened up. It's really unique though. It's beer and pho. Oh. Two things that I really like, but I don't feel like necessarily you do at the same time.
We're talking like light beer, maybe rice beer.
Yeah.
Like not like an IPA.
So there's I think it's close to the stadiums in Seattle. They have a self-serve tap wall with pho.
It's not self-serve pho though.
No. Yeah, I love pho. So.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, but I've never, like, in the local pho places, like, I never am eating a bowl of pho and wish I had a beer at the same time, so I'm sure they have other.
What would you pair with it? Like, if you were to drink a drink, are you just drinking pho you're drinking pho?
You're not drinking when you're eating.
One of the things that, as we've been talking, that's like really cool about you have this really, I wouldn't say overly optimistic, but you believe the best in people, and you work hard, and you're willing to try new things, and you're like open to conversations, which I don't know. I've been around long enough in business where I've just interacted with people with they're closed off, and they're just kind of like, well, that opportunity, whatever. It sounds like it's a lot of work, or this is that or the other, but you're just willing to try things. Where did that come from? Did that come from how you were raised? Are you just naturally that way? Are you and your brother just like that, or would you attribute like?
I don't know where it comes from. I guess it's just like I've always been that way. In terms of trying new things, it's just, that's just who I am. Like I get bored easily, I guess. So I'm always, so, I still have a license. I still dabble in that, in real estate a little bit, and, the tap room, the businesses, like, it's just, I don't know. I just like to stay busy. With regards to, being optimistic, it's a lot easier to be optimistic than pessimistic. Pessimistic people suck.
Realistic people are important. Pessimistic people suck.
Yes. Yeah.
T-shirt for everybody.
Yeah. No, it's important to be realistic, but I just like working with optimistic people. And it's a lot easier to be willing to try new things when you have the luxury of doing it, right. Of course.
Yep.
Like, I wouldn't try as many new things 18 years ago as I am now. Like, I have, a little bit of freedom to take chances and to take risks, and, but, like, one of my biggest pleasures in life is hiring a young individual who didn't know what they were capable of, and then showing them what they are capable of, right? Like, helping Tomas open this tap room and, like, realizing his dream of being his own business partner. Like, nothing is more rewarding than that, right? Helping Jesus and his wife open the Marysville location. Like, they're realizing something now that they always thought was possible, but it wasn't done until it was done, right? And now that it's open, we just, the Tulalip Marysville Chamber of Commerce, just at the awards banquet last week, we won Best New Business of the Year down there.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's huge.
Yeah, he was at that awards banquet. You might have saw the social media post on that. Like, for him to be able to accept that award, that was something that I did back in the day. We've won other awards, and I was there receiving it. Having his family and his wife and daughter there to, at the ribbon cutting ceremony, like, doing those things and, like, helping young people, like, do something that maybe they didn't think was even possible. That's so much fun, right? Like, and it doesn't even have to go to that extent. You could hire, a 16-year-old today, and they might be timid in their interview. They might not be even sure that a restaurant job is for them. When they first start, they're like, no, I don't want to work the counter. I want to put me on dishes, or I want to be back at the house. I'm not comfortable around customers, and, like, forcing them to get out of their comfort zone. And now it's not even me so much doing it anymore, because, unfortunately, Lee and I don't get to spend that much time in the restaurants. We're working, on the restaurants. So it's our corporate team members hiring and store managers hiring and developing these people. But, like, watching them think that they're not good with customers, and then seeing them a year later, I mean, like, dude, you don't shut up now. Like, and then you get emails. Like, like, one of the proudest things for me is, like, I get emails all the time through our website where it's like, hey, was in there so-and-so, man, they're awesome. Like, such a great experience, right? And it's like, oh, that's a kid that, didn't think he wanted to help customers.
Good for them.
Yeah. Right. Like, so again, like, with Coconut Kenny's and, I guess the financial benefits of it is just, to me now, we've gotten to the point where we know it's kind of going to happen. Do we have bad times and good times? Of course, just like every business, but we're so established now, and we got such good customers that we know it's generally always going to be there. So now we get to, focus on the rewards that sometimes you forget or you don't think about, right? That are, like, so important.
Like the impact, the return on impact, right?
Yeah.
The money follows impact, right?
Yeah.
That's super powerful.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to thank you, first of all, for being a huge part of our community. I know you like to kind of hide back behind the scenes, like we talked about, and be involved, but not necessarily, you don't need to be on the front of everything. But people, especially that listen to this podcast, really appreciate business owners like you that care a lot about this community, care a lot about them as the customer, and just are, like, having fun while doing it. And I'm excited for people that don't know you. I know a lot of people already know you, but for people that don't know you to get to know you. And I'm excited for your expansion and your growth and continuing to impact your employees the way you are. So thanks for being a staple in this community and just making this place a great place to be a small business.
Of course. Yeah.
I appreciate you.
Thanks for having us. I speak on behalf of my partners.
Well, and on that
it's an
note,
honor.
if you're not following any of the Coconut Kenny's social media, Instagram, Facebook, and also TikTok, right? You're on TikTok star now?
Yeah.
On that note, if you have gotten to this point in the podcast, which I will buy you a sandwich at Coconut Kenny's if you message the Building Bellingham Instagram account.
Hey, it's Tiffany, and here are the details. This episode was released December 16, and this offer is good until March 16, 2023. Reach out on the Building Bellingham Instagram account, and we'll get you connected with Leo.
And just excited to share the awesome sandwiches with you.
Oh man, hit them up.
Hit me up. That's right.
Yeah.
Hit me up. And Tiffany, what's the disclaimer? We have
I'm gonna tell the marketing team to boost that one.
Oh, boost that one. So thank you for joining us on the Building Bellingham podcast.
Building Bellingham is a community podcast exploring leadership, challenges, failure, and mindset with entrepreneurs right here in Whatcom County, Washington. You can be the first to hear about upcoming guests by subscribing to the Building Bellingham Facebook or Instagram pages, as well as the Building Bellingham YouTube channel. This episode was produced and edited by Tiffany Holden. Our videography is done by Cooper Hansley. Community projects are by Taylor Beal. To learn more about the team behind the podcast and to download our media kit, check out our website at www.livebellinghamnow.com or search Cohen Group NW on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or LinkedIn. From the whole Building Bellingham podcast team, thank you for listening.